Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Natural20 and this is Fire Emblem Three Houses Crimson Flower Maddening. I am joined in the commentary booth today by absolutely nobody because I've decided to do this chapter solo as we walk through and we try and find out who has kidnapped Flame and then deal with the Death Knight in his lair. Spoilers, it is the Death Knight that has kidnapped Flame. You've probably figured it out after 3 run-throughs of White Clouds at this point. So without further ado, let's get to the chapter. So we start the chapter with me wandering around the monastery, and I want to talk to Lysithea here.
Flame has always seemed a rather odd person. She appears young, yet there's something about her that seems much older than her years suggest. And she's quite wise, but also surprisingly naive.
So I like this a lot because it shows that Lysithea is quite perceptive. There isn't much dialogue like this in the monastery, but sometimes you catch it, and I think it's really cool.
Whatever the case, Sedith seems to care for her more than anything.
And so yeah, she's already hinting at possibilities that will come up later in the game here.
Manuela ran off with Yuritsa's mask? We'll have to speak. Yuritsa is likely at the training ground.
So, you guys will know at this point that if you find Manuela and you activate that, you end the chapter. Now, it should go without saying that it's probably not worth doing that on Maddening mode, because it'll cut all your exploration time down, and that's probably a bad idea. So instead, I'm going to just not discover it for a while. The reason that's important, by the way, is that if you do actually solve this, then you get an accessory further on in the game, but it's just not worth the teaching time that you'll lose. So, broadly speaking, just avoid doing this. The chapter will solve itself anyway. You'll lose an accessory. It's not a huge deal for you. And so I'm going to ponder this choice for a moment. I'm going to sit there and be like, well, maybe I do it, maybe I don't. And then I'm definitely not, because the reason I did this was to show it to you guys.
I may be a knight, but it still feels like I'm doing the same things I did as a merc. Who knows, though? Maybe you and I will end up working together.
So this is me getting Shamir's C support. Now, Shamir recruits at level 15 in this game, but if you get C support, then she recruits at level 12 instead. And you'll notice that I finished the last chapter at exactly level 12. Which means, now that I've got her C support, I can recruit her straight away. Shamir is a very, very powerful addition to the team. You'll see, I don't know if I show this, but she comes into the game as a sniper, which is an advanced class, and therefore she gets very, very powerful growths as a result.
What brings you? Is this about Flame? I understand, but that hard.
What I love, though, is that when you recruit her here, you accuse her of stealing Flame and then recruit her to your side.
On it. I'm available anytime I'm not on a mission with the Knights.
So this is actually key, because Shamir will disappear for some chapters when she's on missions with the Knights. But she's still a powerful member, especially for later in the game.
Oh, it's you. Out late again, I see.
And here we get Edelgard's C+, I believe. I kept all the Edelgard supports in because I think,
that obvious?
As part of Crimson Flower, they are the most important set of supports that you'll get. And the most informative about what this route means and what Edelgard's motivations look like.
I see. Well, don't let me keep you. Hurry back to your room, my teacher. I should get some sleep too, but... Have you ever felt a sort of longing for the outdoors? I have. There are times I long for the warmth of the sun, for a sweet breeze on my face. Do you remember what I told you the other night? About my past?
So here I actually flub the response.
To lead the sort of life I deserved. An ordinary life.
So I think that, you know, the first response is I forgot, in inverted commas, because you told me to, and I'm maintaining your confidence. She does not interpret it that way.
We were imprisoned underground, beneath the palace. The objective was to endow our bodies with the power of a major crest. I have always possessed the crest of Seiros, inherited through the Hresfeld bloodline. But it was only a minor crest, and most of my siblings bore no crest at all. In order to create a peerless emperor to rule Fodlan, they violated our bodies by cutting open our very flesh. Now here I stand, the fruit of that endeavor, Edelgard von Hresvelg. But that came at too high a price. The others were sacrificed. Ours weren't the only lives devastated by that terrible process. Innocents died as well, without even knowing what they were dying for. And there you have it, the truth of the Hresvelg's empire.
And yeah, the big question is who did it?
The Prime Minister and his gaggle of nobles. They had the empire under their thumbs. My father, the Emperor, tried to stop him, but it was futile. My father was nothing but a puppet on a string by then. He was powerless to save us. I know.
So yeah, Ferdinand's dad is a bit of a dick.
My true strength, you will know I speak the truth. I have kept it hidden all this time, but I will reveal to you the power of my second crest. It is the same as yours, the crest of flames. When it manifested for me, I swore a silent oath. For the sake of my family, and for all the poor souls whose lives were traded for my existence. For their sake, I will build a world where such meaningless sacrifice is never again sanctioned. As Emperor, I will change the world. I swear it.
So, what's interesting about Edelgard having the Crest of Flames is that in the original ideas for this game, it was planned for Edelgard to be able to reverse time in the same way that you can, or to stop you from being able to do it. And that unfortunately got taken away, and so she's much less unique as an enemy, and having the Crest of Flames isn't a great idea as a result of that.
Wow.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to recruit Leone here. Now, you'll see what I'm doing is I'm checking to Leone's support. Now, Leone requires you to have a B in Lancers, which can be reduced down to, I believe, a C+, with a C support, and then, to a C with a B support, and then a C+ with a C+ support.
I'd really like to join your class.
So this is the trick here. Leone's B support, which would reduce your lance capability down to D, can't be attained until much later in the game. However, and she doesn't technically have a C+ support, it doesn't exist.
Thanks to you, I'm
But
going to be the best mercenary
the game
ever
still
seen. Just
thinks of her as having C+ support if you raise the support level high enough. So what I did is I raised the support level to being on the cusp of B. The game then goes, oh, she's on the cusp of B support, therefore she must have C+ support. And that means that I'm able to recruit her.
Where could Flake? I hear, but
And
no, it wasn't.
Leone is arguably probably in the top 5 units in the game. She is unbelievably good in this game.
That's fine.
And when I do unit reviews, I'll explain exactly why.
Eating
So here I'm not recording just a random meal, but what you'll see is I've got 500 experience to my next level, and I'm Professor level C+. Professor level C+ is pretty good, and it already gives you 2 activity points for going out and doing battles. Professor level B will give you an extra activity point in the monastery, and also 1 extra activity point when you're teaching. So I choose to go fishing and effectively get that breakpoint, even though it might inconvenience me a little bit further down the line. So here, I have a Battle in the Plains, which is a common map. And what I'm doing is I'm setting up what I call the experience trap. You'll see that there are 2 armored knights in front of me, and I'm going to kill one of them pretty soon. The idea here is that I want to train everyone in class experience. Now, unlike normal experience, class experience will never cap, right? It'll never stop itself from increasing because you've fought too many times. Every time you're in combat, you'll always get at least 2, as long as you hit your target. That's very, very important here, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a setup where I can essentially spend as many turns as I want grinding this up if I need to. And so you'll see here what I've done is I've set it up in such a way that this knight is always going to attack Byleth. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reverse time. No, I might. I don't remember exactly what I did here. Oh, yes. I mess up, I think. because I want to position Dorothea in a different way, but I don't think I do it correctly.
I will prevail.
Doesn't matter. The point that we're getting to here, though, is that every time Byleth... So what's going to happen is this Armor Knight will attack Byleth. He'll deal about 10 damage or so, which Lysithea can then heal. And on top of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to position Dorothea next to Byleth. So every turn he heals 10% of his HP, which is around 3 to 4. On a practical level, what this means is that the Armor Knight will never, ever be able to break Byleth as long as I have healing charges somewhere. And even after I lose all of them, as long as I've got concoctions or vulneries, he'll never, ever be able to break through this wall. Now this becomes important, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start having characters take pot shots at him with rusted bows. And if they're magical characters, with iron bows. Because of the Armor Knight's high defense, I won't be able, physically, to damage him. And because the characters will be doing this from quite far away, they won't be able to hit him. Especially with rusted bows or broken weapons in general. But because they're still attacking him, they'll gain experience for their class. And what that means is that you can use this trick to master every class you want with a single battle. Or you can use this to master a single class in a single battle, which is very, very powerful, and is how I get certain objectives, such as hit plus 20 on characters. Now, what I'm doing with Leonie here is I'm going to give her anything that gives her luck or dexterity. Again, I'll talk about this more in my unit reviews, but this is primarily here to power her up like crazy, and to achieve what I call the crit build. Crit build is one of the strongest builds in this game, and relies on resources that aren't otherwise used. So goddess icons, which are rarely used for anyone, secret books, again, rarely used. And the idea is that dexterity and luck are the components of crit in this game. And Leonie has both in spades in terms of her growths normally. So using this, we can start upping her dex and luck to, what, 2020? Which means that she's going to start having, not an insane crit rate, but a crit rate against enemies. And this will pan out further later in the game.
It seems Flame is still missing.
But now let's get on to the mission itself.
Everyone, hurry! I heard a scream coming from Professor Yuritsa's room!
Yuritsa. Ah, the combat professor with the mask. He has always been rather suspicious. We must hurry.
Professor Yuritsa, are you there?
He does not seem to be here. Hmm? On the ground. Professor Manuela.
So yeah, Yuritsa has beaten up
She's
Manuela.
unconscious. Someone clearly attacked her.
Look at her hand. It looks as though she is pointing at something. There.
There's an opening behind that shelf. Perhaps a secret passageway.
And obviously, Edelgard
What is the meaning of
knows about all of this.
that, Manuela? What
The Death Knight works for her. Yuritsa works for her.
She needs to be taken to the infirmary.
Yes, of course, and quickly. Give me a hand, child.
Understood. I'll support her.
And of course, Edelgard for this map is
Professor, I'll be back
conveniently
shortly. Please.
not going to be here. I wonder why. So, the map overview here is very, very simple. You've got a limited number of turns to beat this map. I think it's 25. And there are a set of rooms with enemies in them that you just need to kind of navigate your way through. Now, on the right-hand side here is the teleporter room. This is incredibly annoying as a room, because when you first do this map, you don't know where any of the teleporters are going to go. But obviously I know where they are going to go now, because we're playing through a Maddening, and you guys have seen this in the prior LPs plenty of times before anyway. So the strategy is going to be that I'm going to send Yuri and Lindhart down the right-hand side, through that winding corridor you just saw, and everyone else is going to barge down the left-hand side and deal with the majority of units. Yuri here is a particularly good choice for the right-hand side, because he's currently an archer, so he has 3 range, and he's very, very fast, so he'll be able to beat up the other archers quite easily. There you go, 25 turns is the time limit. And as you've seen before, my strategy for most of Maddening is quite a slow and deliberate pace, so I'm going to come up close to that time limit again.
Something odd.
Hubert basically acting house leader while Edelgard is away. So here we have Yuri teleport over and get ready to fight this guy. He's got a mace on him, fortunately, so he's going to bash this dude in the face, and it'll be pretty handy. Lindhart follows him, so he's got a source of healing. Lind still level 5, but I've got him in, I believe, Monk at the moment, so he has full healing charges. He's not going to be with us that much longer, he'll hit the bench eventually, but for the moment he's still useful. I've also got Felix as an adjutant in this mission.
Let's get to it.
Under Byleth, because I plan on recruiting him next. And so here we kind of have the standard approach to dealing with
Leave it to me.
any sort of unit formation with a ranged character in it. You set up one character to bait the ranged character in, and then the rest around the corners so that they can just fall on him as soon as he gets there. If you wanted to save time, then I think there is probably a more aggressive approach where you hit maybe 2 or 3 attack zones here, but I don't really feel the need for it right now. Oh, and you can see here, Shamir starts in Sniper, again, advanced class. And the aim for Shamir here is to get as many levels as possible while she's in Sniper. Part of the reason that I have the grinding traps that I do is because I want characters to level up in specific classes. I don't want characters to level up in Archer if I can avoid it, because I'd much rather have them level up in Brigand, which is the class that gives extra strength to most characters. Or at least, I think it's a plus 5% chance of getting a strength level up. Which is, to me, better than Archer, even though eventually, you know, people will specialize in crit builds, which will require dex, more dex, which Archer provides. So again, yep, we aggro the enemy as we fall on them, and we get ready to deal with this next chamber. Shamir is going to show her worth here. She's quite fast, she hits quite hard, and specifically... she's very, very good on enemy phase, because if an enemy dies from her attacks, she gets a power-up boost, and, you know, if more enemies come under her attacks, then she's able to take down more of them. Eventually, she'll stop being able to do that because her bulk will wear out, but for the moment, it's good. On top of that, we're enhancing her because we've got Constance being able to cast Ward, which increases res for the unit over a set number of turns. What this practically means is that Shamir's probably not going to take very much damage from this fireball that's coming at her. I spent a little bit of time weighing here as to whether I want to go in on the enemy. I think I'll choose not to, but I'm not sure. Yes, because I'm under the perception at this point that what will happen is that unit will aggro, and then everything else will move forward with it. But that is a misconception, that's not what's going to happen. Yep, so the enemy walks into Shamir, who shoots it back. Easy peasy.
Silenced.
Gets a level up, which is very handy for us. Not great, but it got speed, so I'm okay with it. So here I have to consider exactly how I want to take them. Of note is that these guys in the armor have battalions, so you don't want people stood in a line, one behind the other, because these guys will just wreck like multiple units with battalions as a result of that. And I'm a little bit wary here because I know that whoever stands here will be attacked by the knight and by somebody with a tome. So Leonie is going to show her worth pretty much immediately. She is a tremendous defensive piece. She has +2 defense from mastering, I believe it's Myrmidon. Myrmidon? I think it's Myrmidon. Or maybe Mercenary. Not Mercenary. One of the classes that she masters gave her +2 defense. And what this is going to mean is... I don't know how that guy doubled her, because she's meant to be very, very fast. But there you go. But she's basically just not going to take damage. Like, 10 damage from an Armor Knight on a single hit is actually pretty good, even though she doesn't do anything back at the moment. That's kind of expected. Armor Knights have a lot of defense to them. Here we get to see why I think Yuri is very, very valuable on this map. His speed and his Iron Bow Plus mean that he's hitting this guy back with quite a lot of damage, and it's going to make our life a lot easier. Again, not a great level up, but he got speed, so I'm not too upset about what's going on here. Everyone enjoys some Dorothea healing. She's so good, guys. And Yuri here needs to hit a 95% chance not to die, which he does quite happily. So yep, we've dealt with this next room, so now we've got to deal with this bit here. They're a bit easier than the previous room in my opinion, because everything is divided up by walls and by gates that won't open unless you actively try and open them. I am somewhat cautious of putting Leone into multiple defense zones, so I just leave her in one, and I know because she's an archer she'll be able to fire back here. Again, ideally I don't want Leone leveling an archer if I can avoid it. I want as many of her levels to come in Brigand if I can. But she also does need to catch up with the rest of the team. She's come in slightly under-leveled compared to everyone else. Same is true of Shamir, which is why she's getting a lot of kills at the moment as well. Everyone proceeds to wildly miss at each other, but Shamir's got this here.
Boring.
Unfortunately, I didn't count for this. This soldier has a physic and will merrily heal this archer over here, much to my chagrin. I sit and consider exactly how I want to take this guy. I'm scared of the second archer causing trouble if I get too close to him. Oh yes, and here I accidentally open a door. Actually, no, that's not true. This is where I accidentally open a door and leave Dorothea directly in front of an Armor Knight who's going to explode his face. And I'm like, oh, do I want to waste a Divine Pulse here? I've only got 7. And the reality is that Lysithea can just annihilate this man. So you can see Lysithea's value here. She's fast enough to double this guy, which means that she's just able to straight kill him with very little inconvenience. Level up isn't great, but she gets magic, which is the important stat for her. And yeah, I deal with that area fairly efficiently and easily. And I provoke the next area here by putting Lysithea on, I believe, a resistance tile. And I give her ward as well, and she's just not going to take damage. And the remainder of guys here are going to be fought by Leone, who's kind of very happy just to sit there and poke things with her bow.
Sure.
So this is Yuri reaching the end of the winding path that leads to the teleporter room. He opens the door, and the thing is, as soon as you either open that door or get inside the square here of the teleporter room, you provoke same turn reinforcements.
I'll manage.
And here, I'm just experimenting to see if Yuri will be able to deal with the same turn reinforcements. I don't know yet. And you can see here, by the way, Leonie's struggling to kill this guy now because she's been debuffed by the dark magic he used on her. Fortunately, she's got Hubert as backup and is able to take him down with Curved Shot.
I'll celebrate later.
Constance doesn't really care about people using magic on her. And this is the important part. This Dimensional Soldier goes in on Yuri. He's able to double back, which is pretty handy. And then this archer goes in on him. And he survives at 2 HP. Down to 1 because of the poison strike. But now he's in a bit of trouble, right? Fortunately, we've got this teleporter online. Which means that Leone can come and back him up. Which is very, very important, because this is how we're going to stop him from dying, ideally. I think I'm a little worried here that the archer might have range to her, but I don't think that's the case because the archer seems to just want to go for not Leone, Yuri instead. The question is, how do I get Yuri to survive this? He's going to take another 2 attacks, and the first ones took him down from near full HP to nothing. And I'm like, well, okay, so he just dies to basically everything, apart from, obviously, if he uses a battalion. So this is where Yuri's high authority is helping him. He's got, I think, a B rank battalion at the moment. I'm like, well, that deals 15 damage to Yuri, right? If I heal him, how much does he heal up to? The answer is 13. Okay, well...
Up to you.
At this point, I still don't really figure out what the solution is. But then it comes to me. If I gambit these guys and it hits, which very fortunately it does, I obviously break the guy behind him. And that means he deals a little bit less damage. And as it turns out, Yuri survives on 1 HP. 1 HP if you do it this way, which I'm very proud of. That is a big brain strat right there. And I just mouse over that for a bit because I'm like, I am a genius. So after all of this is done, we loot all the rooms adjacent to the teleporter rooms and get ready then to face the Death Knight. I've got, what, 3 turns left at this point, so you can see that I've been using my time here. And I'm prepping again. The plan is that I'm going to have Dorothea use Stride on everyone, so that we can get into the room easier and surround and kill the Death Knight. The problem I've got is that Lysithea here doesn't have Dark Spikes, which is the traditional way that Lysithea would kill this Death Knight. So I'm going to have to find another solution. Gambit wasn't perfect. I didn't position everyone the exact way I probably should have. But I don't really want to use Divine Pulse for it when I can have a go at trying to kill him. The first thing is, how do I deal damage to this guy without anyone dying? And so, one trick to dealing with the Death Knight is to have a defense adjutant, because a defense adjutant will stop your guys from dying to a follow-up attack, which is very, very helpful, because the Death Knight lives and dies by hitting with follow-up attacks. The first thing that I'm going to do is use Byleth to gambit the Death Knight here, which will do 2 things. The first thing is it's going to make it easier for someone else to hit the Death Knight, because Byleth will now be in range. I'm like, well, can Lysithea group flames him? No, that's not going to do any damage. But yeah, it's going to up everyone's hit chance here with gambits. And I think I conclude that Leonie's gambit is the only way she's going to deal real damage to him. I probably could have got a little bit more out of her if I positioned a man next to her, but I don't know if I'm going to do that properly. Ah, yes, no, I think I choose to attack with Ferdinand's gambit first, because since he's at full HP, he's got a little bit more hit than everyone else does. Okay, perhaps I don't. I'm still weighing my options here, because this is quite complex, if I'm honest. Oh yes, yeah, so Yuri is unfortunately not going to be in range of the Death Knight unless he uses an arrow of some sort. And that's not going to do very much damage at all, which is a mistake from my part and my end. I should have been positioned better to get that movement speed boost. And then I realized, obviously, Lysithea has Luna. And that's going to hit the Death Knight for 32 damage. So the goal is now, can I reduce the Death Knight's HP from 44 to 32 with what I have? So obviously group flames, bang, 5 damage right there.
Just as I planned.
Takes a little bit more damage. And now it's just a matter of figuring out the right way to hit this guy. Second Gambit's going to be Onslaught for another 4 damage from Ferdinand. I say that. No, hold on. I might do it with Leonie first. Ugh, indecision. So this is the kind of way that I'll play most of the time. I'm still sad that he can double Leonie, by the way. She should be fast enough that he can't.
Remember the surface. Don't underestimate us.
That hits. I could have done better if I found a way to get a man next to her, but I don't think any of them have ranged combat arcs. So that would prove difficult. I'm like, oh, I need 4 more damage from somewhere here. Unfortunately, that is the exact amount of damage that Ferdinand's going to give me.
I'll show you a plan.
And now I've got a 74% chance of hitting Luna. And the reason I don't use Yuri, by the way, is because of this. If she misses, I need to find a way to reseed the RNG. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the dice roll that misses here on Yuri. Shooting this guy with an iron bow.
Leave it to me.
I believe the reason I don't take the experience, by the way, is because I don't want anyone to level up. And yep, Lysithea hits this time because I reseeded the RNG and gets a very good level out of it. Lots of magic, lots of speed.
Kill them. Halt. You're having a bit too much fun.
Oh, Edelgard.
You are getting in the way of my game. Huh. You'll have more opportunities to play soon. Your work here is done.
So at this point, I don't know how complicit Edelgard is actually in taking Flame's blood. Because the game never does a great job of delineating
We'll cross paths again.
where Edelgard's Flame Emperor shtick begins and ends, and where those who slither in the dark begin and end. And so it's a big question for me, like, how complicit was she? Did they act on their own?
That he sounds intent on showing up again.
But I think this is broadly the Flame Emperor's idea. She wants the blood for some reason.
Withdrawn. Let's carry them up.
And that is the mission complete. I was very, very lucky with Lysithea there. If I hadn't managed to get that, I would have had to redo a lot of what I just did with fewer Divine Pulse charges, and I might have had to do it all again. But yes, that is all of Chapter 7, including amazing grinding techniques, including the death of the Death Knight without Dark Spikes. Very proud of that. And that is that chapter. So what happens afterwards is, as we know, the Death Knight manages to get away, and the Church of Saros is somewhat vexed by all of this. That being said, we then get on to the next chapter, which is going to be the Battle of the Eagle and Lion, which I'm looking very much forward to because it's a very good map, one of my favorite chapters. And with that in mind, thank you all very, very much for watching, and we will catch you all next time.